always, I extend my deep gratitude to Brother Pradeep Mahapatra, to Sister Vimal, and to Sister Meenakshi because of their work and the entire work of the Indian section. We can be together here every Friday. And as I always like to begin with a small moment of silence, just as a reminder of inhabit this place, feel this moment, the presence of all of us together, beyond distances, beyond times, but all united with a common purpose of going in depth in very important and special teaching. So just let us connect for a moment, heart to heart, feeling the gratitude for this opportunity of being here and now. Thank you. I'll share the screen now. Coming, yes. Okay. I guess now it is coming. So it's mentioned by Sister Vimal, this is the last of 3 parts on the letter 135, which is the 138 in Baker number. And so far, we have been discussing of the following lines. HPV's letter written to Sinnet it's a letter written in 1885 before leaving India due to her health, and she expressed the concerns about the fraud accusations and their effect on the master's reputation, criticizing Hudson by his investigation, the betrayal within the Theosophical Society, the skepticism surrounding occult perception. And despite all these attacks and illness, HPV stayed resilient, viewing her life and all this situation as a testament of her faithfulness to the masters, to the task that she was given, and as a testament to the practical theosophy and her master's protection as well. I share also that some key themes in the letter are, or key topics in the letter are the Hudson's bias investigation, the betrayal versus loyalty, the Theosophical Society's future. The letter also gives some additional important information on precipitation. That was what we ended with last time. And of course, her personal struggles that apart from being a manifest of the practical theosophy, I saw a possibility of connecting them with the golden stairs. As I mentioned, we ended the last session with the part in the letter where HPV explains 2 methods of precipitation, the unconscious transmissions, in which the sender must first attract the attention of a Chela or Mahatma before opening the letter, and the letter is passed over the forehead while holding one's breath, ensuring continuous contact with the skin. And this process continues until a bell signal that the message was received and noted by the recipient. And the conscious transmissions that consist on impressing every sentence of the letter in a conscious way, of course, but still mechanically on the brain, and then send it phrase by phrase to the other person on the other end of the line. And both methods, as we also mentioned last time, require intense concentration and involve burning the letter with a virgin fire to ensure secrecy and to prevent any transmission or errors. Any mistake, such as neglecting the fire or leaving the letter exposed, could lead to misunderstanding or accusations of fraud. This is a process that provides extra security. And this is also something that HPV explained to Sinnet in order to make him understand how difficult it will be to forge the letters. So how irrational are the accusation, or were the accusation that she was living at the time. And these 2 methods also reflect a profound emphasis on secrecy, precision, and the disciplined use of mental and esoteric energies in communication. And what they suggest also is that beyond mere transmission of information, these practices serve as a form of training in focus, concentration, and spiritual responsibility. The use of virgin fire highlights the mystical belief in purification and transformation, reinforcing the idea that true knowledge exists beyond the physical realm. So this was like the end of the last session. And today, okay, a little relating to this, we can say that theosophists, apart from occultists, I mean, those who are not occultists or whom it's difficult to believe in these invisible things, often struggle with understanding these occult laws, which leads to suspicion. Yet, this should encourage open-minded inquiry rather than accusations. So, of course, it's easier to doubt when we cannot see, but if we just reflect a little bit more, we should, with an open mind, of course, we could inquire more instead of accusing. That is something that we can take out of this whole situation that is happening. There is an article from HPV that is called What is True that was shared with me also by Sister Bimal and was published in one of the Lucifer numbers. And she warns that esoteric knowledge must be safeguarded from public debate to prevent distortion, as true wisdom is only accessible through direct spiritual perception. This can be related with her explanation in this letter 135, where she defends the secrecy of Mahatma communication, emphasizing that such transmissions operate beyond conventional understanding and should not be subjected to skeptical scrutiny. HPV's struggles arose from sacred teachings being misinterpreted when exposed to the public, reinforcing the need to preserve higher truths with the awakened in inner consciousness. So in this same article, she says that absolute truth is the symbol of eternity, and no finite mind can ever grasp the eternal. Hence, no truth in its fullness can ever dawn upon it. To reach the state during which man sees and senses it, we have to paralyze the senses of the external man of clay. As physical man, limited and trammeled from every side by illusions, cannot reach truth by the light of his terrestrial perceptions. We say, develop in you the inner knowledge. So cannot reach truth by the light of his terrestrial perceptions, because these terrestrial perceptions will only lead to mistrust, to false accusations, like happened with, as we know, that is one of the main topics in this letter. But it can be reached or seen by the development in us of our inner nature or self-transformation. So on the spiritual path, attaining the sun of truth requires sincere effort in cultivating our higher nature. By gradually weakening the desires of our lower self and silencing the purely physiological mind, which is bound to the physical brain. When we do this, we create a space for the spiritual self to merge. Once awakened, our highest spiritual senses and perceptions develop in parallel with the growth of the divine man within us. So people find it difficult to believe in higher spiritual phenomena because their perception is confined to the finite and the material, unable to grasp the eternal nature of absolute truth. The mind, bound by sensory illusions and the limitations of this physical world and the lower planes, cannot comprehend deeper realities through ordinary reasoning alone or through ordinary senses. HPV was accused and doubted even by friends because ordinary perception is bound by material limitations. So that, of course, difficult to accept what cannot be grasped by the lower senses. As she thought absolute truth transcends finite understanding, and only by awakening the higher self, one can begin to perceive those deeper realities. Without this, people remain trapped in illusion and quick to dismiss what they cannot comprehend or to mistrust. And much of the rest of the letter reflects HPB's discouragement over the measures being taken to try to ruin the societies as well as to defame her. She put her heart out to Sinnet and his wife as true friends. Her weariness led her to think this may be her last letter. In fact, she says, "This will probably be my last letter to you, dear Mr. Sinnet. It took me a week nearly to write this one. I am so feeble, and then I do not think I will have an opportunity. I cannot tell you why. Most probably, you will not regret it. You cannot remain faithful much longer, living as you do in the world. Myers and the Psychological Research Society will laud you to scorn." However, as we know, she did recover and lived to write The Secret Doctrine, The Key to Theosophy, and The Voice of the Silence. But of course, as we also mentioned last time, she sees in this the help of her master. Whenever she has recovered, she mentions that in previous opportunities, she has been also very ill, about to die, and for the grace and help of her master, she can recover. So, of course, this is one more of the opportunities in which that help of the master, helpful hand of the master came to help her. One can read irony in her words. When she says, "You cannot remain faithful much longer, living as you do in the world. Mayors and Pierre S. will love you to scorn." And in spite of that thought, as already mentioned in multiple times, she stood with courageous endurance and brave declaration of principles. If at all she thought to resign Theosophical Society, it was not of proclaiming the truth and defending the existence of the masters. Whenever she thought of resign, was thinking of the welfare of the Theosophical Society and the damage that the investigations and her detractors could cause to the Theosophical Society. And she says, "Let the whole world, with the exception of a few friends and my Hindu occultists, believe me a fraud. I will not deny it, even to their faces." So look, she only thought of resigning for the well-being of the Theosophical Society, but whatever accusations she had to take, she doesn't care even if they believe her a fraud, because she had a constant eye to the ideal of human progression and perfection which the secret science Gupta Vidya depicts. And she knew that all those accusations were rooted in the ignorance and lack of knowledge of people accusing her of the deepest. They were ignorant of these deepest truths that she was trying to bring into the world. So, however, of course, this endurance and this constant eye to the ideal, etc., this did not prevent her to feel sadness and regrets, of course, because anyway, it was a very complicated situation, but she completely stood faithful to these truths. And even more, she barely defended herself. She stood courageously and with declaration of principles. And there was a reason for that. In Theosophy as the Master See It by Clara Code, there is a section entitled, "Why an occultist, when attacked, does not reply. This is something of high importance here. Why she didn't defend herself, and she was ready to take any blame, but to protect the Theosophical Society and her work and the work that the master had given her. So she reminds us, Clara Code, in this book, Theosophy as the Master Seed, especially in this small part, why an occultist when attacked does not reply. She reminds us the words of the master themselves, and she quotes the two following letters. First, she quotes the letter 126 in the chronological edition, 62 in Baker's editions, where the master says, sometimes members argue that the masters or their disciples ought to bring forward proofs to allay suspicion and distrust. When Sinnet ventured to quote to the masters Bacon's saying that there is nothing that makes a man suspect much more than to know little, he replied, we are not permitting, come what may, to offer it as a remedy against or to cure people of suspicion. So we are not permitted, come what may, to offer it as a remedy against or to cure people of suspicion. And there is nothing that makes a man suspect much more than to know little. And the second fragment that Clara Cott quotes in her book is from the letter 119, 86 Baker's edition, that says, this occult rule is founded upon a deep knowledge of human nature. The confirmed doubter is not helped by proofs presented to him. The confirmed doubter is not helped by proofs presented to him. They may allay his doubts for the moment, but these will presently arise again in darker, subtle forms. So they become stronger, but at the same time subtler and darker, like even more. As the master K.H. said one such, one point and explain will but lead to the other still darker points, even arising, in his suspicion restless mind. So the more we explain, the more doubt and suspicious come. So there is no end to this doubt in the human nature, especially those who who know little, as we saw in the previous quote. So there is no end to it. And Hudson, in this case and Hume maybe also, can be examples of that. I will say that no matter how you try to prove that there is no reason for that doubt, if the mind has not yet went deeper and tried to understand the things, and if the mind is not open, then there is no point, because the doubt will arise in different forms, in different ways, etc. So these two fragments of the letter quoted, of the Mahatma letters quoted by Clara Cott, belong to the probation and Chela-Chib. Baker, he classified the letters in different topics also. So the first quote, that is the 126 chronological 62 Baker, belongs to the part that Baker called the probation and Chela-Chib. And the second quote, belongs to the part that he entitles Spiritualism and Phenomena. So both things, the probation and Chela-Chib and the spiritualism phenomena, both general subjects, have a lot to do also with this letter 135. So that's why I thought it was relevant also to bring them. I know we have already, in this whole series of the Mahatma letters, studied those letters, so it's good to bring some of the things when it's necessary and to remember, and this is another point of value of the study of the letters, because all of them bring some complement to the others, as we just will see. Okay, now she approaches the end of this long letter on a sad note. It's a constant note on the letter when she says, though my friends, the Oakleys, advise me to resign while the Hindus say they will all live if I do, I must resign because being thought a Russian, no, sorry, I must resign because being thought a Russian spy, I endanger the society. So that is what I was just mentioning, that if at all she thought to resign, it was not to endanger the society. And then she continues, an old and lady dying woman confined to her room, forbidden to mount a few steps lest her heart bursts. Never reading a paper for fear or finding there the most vile personal abuse. Receiving letters from Russia, but from relatives. A spy, a dangerous character. Oh, Britishers of India, where is your value? So one can feel the irony, the sadness, the impotence, because I mean, she can barely move herself. She can barely survive herself. She's so ill, so bad, and all these people accusing her of such things. And of course, she receives letters from Russia because her family is from Russia, and she's in touch with them. But all these facts, when the mind is not eager and open enough, can be completely misinterpreted and can become the proof that they needed to believe in their hypothesis, that was that she forged the letters. So every situation, every fact can have this kind of both sides when we are not really putting our viveka into action. And sadly, what was happening with all these facts that she is describing in this fragment of the letter. And of course, this highlights the ignorance, misinterpretation, intention of getting rid from HPV that, as we mentioned also, was very supported by the Britishers and the missionaries, the padres, as she mentions also in the letter. Because of course the TS and the theosophical teachings represented a menace against the Christian missionaries and their crusade to colonize people's minds and hearts. Later, she adds that all the accusations against her and the society, that all the turmoil caused by the Hudson investigation and the Coulomb conspiracy have happened, and I quote her, because we have profaned the truth by giving it out indiscriminately and forgot the motto of the true occultist, to know, to dare, and to keep silent. So the motto of the true occultist is to know, to dare, and to keep silent. And she puts it in capital. I didn't change that. It's like that in the letter. Keep silent with capitals. As already mentioned previously towards the beginning of the letter, that had and we said that the fact that she opened this information had to do to her seal of the cause for the cause. I will bring the words at the beginning of the letter where she says, I know that owing to my great zeal for the cause and your assurances that the society will never prosper unless the occult element was introduced into it, and the masters proclaimed, I am more guilty than any for having listened to this. Still, all of you have no to suffer karma, and that includes her, and this letter is a proof of that karma that is being brought to her due in part to the fact of not to propagate this kind of knowledge. There was, of course, a tension between secrecy and testimony. Silence is important in preserving esoteric wisdom, of course, and this raises an interesting question or a couple of questions. When should spiritual truths be shared and when should they be kept silent? What does that keep silent mean as we seek to share theosophical wisdom with those who are hungry for spiritual understanding? These are some questions that we can make to yourselves, and of course, they don't have only one answer. I guess each one of us can exercise our own viveka in order to try to get some insight regarding these couple of questions. One could say, for instance, that the balance between secrecy and testimony in esoteric wisdom depends on the readiness of the seeker and the responsibility of the teacher. Spiritual truths should be shared when they can be understood and used for growth, rather than misinterpreted or misused. This keeping silent or keep silent does not mean withholding knowledge arbitrarily, but respecting the natural process of inner development. Some truths must be experienced rather than simply explained, for instance. And in theosophy, this means guiding sincere seekers while ensuring that deeper teachings are revealed only when they can be truly comprehended and integrated. And especially is encouraging inner growth and being aware of this encouraging inner growth and being aware is one grade and is part of the process of self-transformation. So, I mean, of course, this is my view, but of course, I guess these two questions are really worth taking into reflection, to know, to dare, and to keep silent. This motto of the great occultist. It is said that that is the motto of a great occultist because it encapsulates the essential disciplines of the esoteric wisdom. To know signifies the pursuit of deep hidden truths, the study, the inquiry. To dare could represent the courage required to explore and apply such knowledge. One could say the practice in a daily life also. To dare to take this into our lives because it requires a strong will and a real courage to go beyond the simple reading of these teachings, or the simple agreeing with the teaching or finding them truly inspiring and beautiful, but the courage to dare to apply them in our daily lives and to become, by example, the expression of this great knowledge and wisdom. And to keep silent underscores the necessity of discretion, ensuring that sacred teachings are not misused, as we already mentioned, misunderstood, or diluted by those unprepared to receive them. So silence protects both the integrity of the wisdom and the seeker, allowing true understanding to unfold without interference from skepticism, ridicule, etc. All that we have seen in this letter. So, reaching the end of the letter, In the last paragraph, she says, "Goodbye then, dear Mr. Sinnet and Mrs. Sinnet. Whether I die in a few months or remain 2 or 3 years in solitude, I am as good as dead already. Forget me and try to deserve personal communication with the Master. Then you shall be able to preach him, and if you succeed as I succeeded, you shall be put and insulted as I was, and see whether you can stand it. And see whether you can stand it. The Oakleys urged me to write to my aunt and sister and ask her to send me the design of the pearl brooch I sent them in 1880. I refuse. Why should I? The brooch phenomenon proven. They will come out some other proof fraudulent by false witnesses. This refers to the episode of the brooches that were precipitated and the Oakleys that were on her side, that were her friends. They were telling, okay, you please tell them to send, so you prove true. But why should I, she says. Then will come out some other proof fraudulent by false witnesses. This is exactly what we were seeing in the letter 119 that Clara Cott quoted, that no matter how many proofs you will give, if the doubt is there and if the person who doubts has made their mind, the doubt will come in another shape, in another form, darker, etc. So she knew that. So what was the point to bring the brooch? Just to keep going in a vicious circle. So this remark to Sinnet, her remark to Sinnet, is both a challenge and a warning also. It reflects a karmic perspective on spiritual attainment and its consequences. She urges him to seek direct connection with the Master rather than relying on her as an intermediary, implying that true spiritual progress requires personal merit and effort, as we well know. And the latter part of the statement highlights the trial that comes with public advocating esoteric teachings, ostracism, ridicule, hardship. Her tone is both ironic and defiant, suggesting that enduring such opposition is a mark of, one could say, genuine success in this path, but in the internal path, because all this endurance that she has shown really is this why a true occultist should not defend him or herself in the true path. That is not something really that matters. There are things that are more important, and this endurance is the way she is proving that success, to say in a way, in this path. But it also reflects her own experiences with skepticism and criticism. Furthermore, she suggests that facing ridicule and opposition is a karmic test that naturally follows success in esoteric work. And one must bear the reactions of the world as a consequence of awakening higher truths. And as she says at the end, and even if we try to defend oneself, people who is doubting will find always more and more ways and reasons to doubt. This reminds us of Annie Besant's words in her article, "Is Belief in the Master Superstitious or Harmful?" Okay, it's more than an article, it's a pamphlet, like a small book. When Annie Besant tries to establish the existence of the masters of wisdom, quoting testimonies of people that had actual encounters with them, and she adds, "Can you say that all these men are deliberately deceiving the people around them? But why? A man who deceives has an object in deceiving, money, fame, credit, or some such thing. But by confessing that he has stood face to face with a living master, he receives only scorn, contempt, and insult. Why should a man go out of his way in order to gain such a reward? You will send a man to jail for life on the testimony of one or two of them. If you refuse that same testimony when it is not a matter of criminal law, but a matter which your prejudices prevent you from believing, then we have the right to say that you do not wish to know. You have made up your minds that such things cannot be, but the evidence is there. No attacks upon it can prevent the spreading of the truth. If you do not agree with us, at least let us go our own way, doing our work, striving to help, to comfort, and to console. We cannot keep to ourselves the truth we know, but we never attack the faith of another man. We cannot remain silent when we are bidden to speak, but we speak gently and persuasively, and we blame none if they do not believe. The commitment to sharing spiritual truths despite opposition reflects both a duty to serve and a karmic test of endurance, and reminds us HPB's statement when she says, I know that owing to my great zeal for the cause and your assurances that the society will never prosper unless the occult element was introduced into it and the master proclaimed, I am more guilty than any for having listened to this. Still, all of you have not to suffer karma. This, I know, is the third time that I put this quote, but I think it's really important to remind it. So what Besant emphasized here is the responsibility to speak with compassion and without attacking others' beliefs, for instance. And also she states that those who speak about the master receives only scorn, contempt, and insult. Those are the words that she uses. Like Blavatsky did, highlighting the karmic trials that inevitably follow genuine esoteric work. Spreading wisdom is not only an act of service, but also a path of self-purification, where facing skepticism and resistance becomes a measure of one's spiritual strength and alignment with higher truths. Spreading truth in spite of knowing the karma that has to be suffered echoes the strong declaration of principles and the path of service and being a messenger of the Brahma Vidya for the world in a time when rational premises and superstitions used to be the order of the day. That was the time in which all this was happening. Well, the very last sentence of the letter shows again the sentiment of friendship and trust she had in Mr. and Mrs. Sinnet. She says, goodbye again. May your life be happy and prosperous, and Mr. S, old age, more healthy than her youth. Forgive me the annoyance I may have caused to you, and forget. Yours to the end, H.P. Blavatsky. Blavatsky's closing words to Sinnet carry a tone of finality, detachment, and karmic acknowledgement. And her farewell expresses goodwill, yet the request for forgiveness and forgetfulness. This request for forgiveness and forgetfulness suggests an acceptance of past difficulties and a recognition of the impermanence of personal ties in the larger scheme of spiritual evolution. It shows or reflects the esoteric principle of non-attachment, which in this case could mean letting go of personal grievances and focusing on the greater journey ahead. In asking to be forgotten, she reinforces her early message that true progress must come from within, free from dependence on any one individual. Well, letter 135 to Sinnet shows the deep struggles amid the trial and the challenges facing the Theosophical Society's future, particularly in the light of Hudson's bias investigation, and all this controversy over the precipitation of letters highlights the tension between esoteric truths and eternal scrutinies. And HPV's unwavering dedication, despite all of this, exemplify this commitment to the cause and shows how the true theosophical work requires resilience and inner strength, which is something that from which we can take inspiration for our daily lives and our theosophical work, but especially, I mean, our work of self-transformation on the daily life. Studying the Mahatma letters today is essential because they offer deep insights into spiritual evolution, the nature of reality, the responsibilities of those on the path of wisdom, provide timeless guidance on self-discipline, service, and the development of higher consciousness, all of which remain relevant in a world searching for meaning, such as our current world. They also shed light on the inner workings of the theosophical tradition, addressing issues of truth, discernment, and the challenges of transmitting esoteric knowledge. These works provide real-life examples of dedication, challenges, and the application of exoteric principles on a daily basis, offering inspiration and guidance. And I really find them, whenever I read any letter of the Mahatmas, I find it's essential studying theosophy, not just for intellectual understanding, but especially and more than anything for inner transformation, helping us applying these teachings with wisdom, discernment, and purpose in our own lives. Even though we no longer receive letters from the Mahatmas, every situation, every person, experience in our lives can be seen as a message, as Shindeji reminded us last time, offering opportunities for learning, growth, and the deepening of our understanding. I would like to close this session not with a quote of the letter itself, but with a fragment of Annie Besant's words in the pamphlet is believed in the master's superstitious or harmful, which says, I repeat to you in the 20th century, in our case, can be also in the 21st century, those words spoken in the first. So this is a ageless wisdom and things that are applied no matter they can be upgraded and applied at any moment. And she says, the fire of time tries every work and will burn up the subtle. Only the pure gold will remain, the essential. We are content to stand that test. We are willing to face the world with our message and to be, as our forerunners were, despised, rejected of men. Some of you will believe, for your hearts will answer to the message, your hearts, that intuition. Some of you will answer, for your own path will voice itself in heart and brain. For you who do not believe and are angry because we believe where you do not, on you may there be the blessing of the incarnated in the masters, and may the light come to you from other lips and in other ways, although from us you despise it and reject it. Okay, thanks to all for your attention through all these 3 sessions. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Catalina. What a wonderful presentation. So many insights, so much study. Beautiful presentation. So we can discuss after Meenakshi ji gives her in Hindi translation. Welcome, Meenakshi ji.
नमस्ते सभी को और थैंक यू सिस्टर कैटलिना। आज हम क्रोनोलॉजिकल लेटर नंबर 135 का शेष भाग ले रहे हैं, जो कि मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की ने एपी सिनेट को लिखा था। रिचर्ड हॉडसन ने सोसाइटी फॉर साइकिकल रिसर्च के लिए अपनी जांच पूरी की थी, जिसमें उन्होंने एचपीवी को धोखेबाज साबित किया था। मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की सीनेट से कहती है कि मेरे मित्र ओकलेज मुझे इस्तीफा देने की सलाह दे रहे हैं। तो हिंदू सदस्य कह रहे हैं कि ऐसा करने से वे सभी चले जाएंगे। मुझे इस्तीफा देना चाहिए क्योंकि रूसी जासूस समझे जाने से मैं सोसाइटी को खतरे में डाल रही हूँ। मेरी तबीयत ठीक होने के दौरान मेरा जीवन ऐसा है जहाँ डॉक्टर कहते हैं कि हर भावावेग घातक साबित हो सकता है। यदि ऐसा है तो ठीक ही है, तब मैं असल में इस्तीफा दे दूंगी। लेकिन फिर वे यह भूल जाते हैं कि मैं यूरोपीय लोगों और महात्माओं के बीच की एकमात्र कड़ी हूँ। आगे मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की कहती है कि डियर मिस्टर सिनेट, यह शायद मेरा आपको आखिरी पत्र होगा। मैं बहुत कमजोर हूँ। मुझे यह पत्र लिखने में लगभग 1 सप्ताह लगा और फिर मुझे नहीं लगता कि मुझे कोई अवसर मिलेगा। मैं आपको बता नहीं सकती। संभावना है कि आपको इसका पछतावा नहीं होगा। आप दुनिया में जिस तरह से रह रहे हैं, उससे आप अधिक समय तक निष्ठावान नहीं रह सकते। मायर्स और पीआरएस आपका उपहास करेंगे। ह्यूम, जो अप्रैल में लंदन जाएंगे, वे सभी को महात्माओं और मेरे खिलाफ करेंगे। मिस अरुंडेल और 2 या 3 अन्य सदस्यों को छोड़कर लंदन लॉज में जिस तरह के स्त्री पुरुष हैं, उनसे भिन्न प्रकार के लोगों की जरूरत होगी ऐसे उत्पीड़न और झंझावात का सामना करने के लिए। और यह इसलिए हुआ है, यानी धोखाधड़ी का आरोप इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि हमने सत्य को अंधाधुंध तरीके से साझा करके उसे भ्रष्ट किया और एक खरे साधक के इस सिद्धांत को भूल गए कि ज्ञात करना, हिम्मत करना और मौन रहना, टू नो, टू डेयर एंड टू कीप साइलेंट। तो फिर अलविदा प्रिय मिस्टर सिनेट एंड मिसेस सिनेट। चाहे मैं कुछ ही महीनों में मर जाऊं या 2 या 3 साल एकांत में रहूं, मैं पहले ही एक मृतक जैसी हूँ। मुझे भूल जाए और मास्टर के साथ स्वयं संवाद साधने का प्रयास करें। फिर आप उन्हें उपदेश दे पाएंगे और यदि आप मुझ जैसे सफल हो जाओगे, तब आप भी मुझ जैसे तिरस्कृत और अपमानित होंगे और फिर देखें कि कहीं आप इसे सहन कर सकते हैं या नहीं। ओकलेज ने मुझसे आग्रह किया कि मैं अपनी आंट, मौसी और बहन को पत्र लिखूं और उनसे मोती वाले ब्रूच का डिजाइन भेजने के लिए कहूं, जो मैंने उन्हें 1880 में भेजा था। ऐसा करने से मैंने मना किया। मैं ऐसा क्यों करूं? ब्रूच घटना सिद्ध होने पर फिर झूठे गवाहों द्वारा धोखाधड़ी साबित होने वाले कुछ अन्य मामले उभर कर आएंगे। आखिर में मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की कहती है कि मेरे कुछ मित्रों और हिंदू साधकों को छोड़कर दुनिया चाहे मुझे एक धोखेबाज माने, मैं उन्हें मुंह पर भी इससे इनकार नहीं करूंगी। पुनः एक बार अलविदा। आपका जीवन सुखी समृद्धि हो और मिसेस सिनेट का वृद्धकाल उनकी युवावस्था से भी अधिक स्वस्थ हो। मेरी वजह से आपको जो परेशानी हुई हो, उसके लिए मुझे क्षमा करे, भूल जाए। Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sister. So we open up now for discussions, comments. Hindi ji is there. Pradeep ji. I just want to say here, this to know, to dare, to keep silent. I think we all face this when we try to teach theosophy to our friends and relatives. At least people understand karma and reincarnation, but when it comes to the deeper concepts about the masters, about the evolution aspect, we can't penetrate. It's very difficult to penetrate and make people interested, or even to, almost everyone sticks to their own religious beliefs and they don't want to explore something new or different. This motto is still now it is something, even whether we are an occultist or not, we still have to use this motto in our daily life. It is very difficult to teach these teachings to people. Yes, anybody else wants to say something? Catalina, would you like to add anything?
No, actually, I totally agree with what you just said. Is there are certain concepts that, I mean, are maybe more common in our currently days because they have become like of common use. But also until what point, like when a person said, "Oh, my karma," or "Yes," it's really, I mean, it implies a real understanding, even for those concepts that are easier to understand because they are more logically explained. I mean, cause effect that you can even with your lower mind understand cause effect because that happens in physics, in science, etc. But even being concepts that are of our more common use nowadays, even the deep of the understanding of the law of karma is not yet so easy to grasp and to really, and not only to grasp, but to really apply in our daily lives. So one can say, oh my, this is karma, right? But at the moment that we really have to understand the karma and even see the positive, because karma is basically an opportunity to learn and to grow and to every time make us more near to this divine stage that we have per nature. Even though at the moment that it really comes to that, we complain, we become upset, etc. So if that happens for such things that are more common, imagine things such as more occult teachings or I don't know, the rounds, the chains, the constitution. I mean, things that it's even more difficult to even understand. I totally agree with what you are saying. Yeah.
And also, like, of course, in the world today, there are a lot of spiritual seekers. But this concept of the dweller of the threshold, which we are studying now, I mean, this is such a useful concept for any seeker, that especially this in this letter, this word doubt keeps on coming. Doubt is such a big dweller, I think, for almost every one of us. Are we doing the right thing? What is it all? I mean, it's the doubt is the one of the biggest problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from that, of course, there are entire other things which you say, like karmically, our dweller is our creation, so we have to face that. So there is so much in theosophy which can help the spiritual path, but it's really unfortunate that we are unable to convince more people. Anyway, I feel that there is a real spiritual surge in the world. I don't think it's not there. I think it's there. There are a lot of healers. There are a lot of people who are lo- going towards this direction. It may not be knowledge-based going. It may be more experience, niche, that type of going. It's fine.
Yeah.
Great. You say it, what Annie Besant said beautifully. Wow, what a beautiful statement you have brought up. That you won't take it from us, you'll take it from someone else. Doesn't matter. You take it from
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah. And actually, that's why I think also it's very important for anyone who has grasped at least a little bit to really apply it in our lives, because maybe people are not interested in studying or going to all this, but if you can make just, I mean, example is a way of inspiring other people. So as far as we can a little bit apply this in our relationships with the people that we are surrounded, that will be in a way putting those seeds, as you say, in an experiential manner, in a connected to real life situation is way. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, whenever it's also very interesting to read the interview of AP Sinnet and one of the PSR interviewers, investigators. Just read that. It's a long interview, and you
Please
will
share
see.
it.
It's there online. It's there.
Okay,
You
I'm
will be
searching.
you will be so, you'll feel like this Englishman who is asking these questions. He is like, he's got a wall. He refuses to accept any evidence, any proof. He has he has just blinded his eyes, and the long interview, Sinnet is not able to convince that interviewer. So, all of them were put through the grind in that PSR situation. But anyway,
I was reading, I don't remember where last week, somewhere I read that sometimes with the scientists, no, these people of science, they criticize the religious people because they are so close, their mind is so focused on their beliefs, etc. But they it's kind of another kind of a similar behavior. That's why the
yeah,
open-minded is very important. I mean,
yeah,
to be ready always to question
yeah,
oneself and to question everything that one is reading. Of course, not to keep doubting also, because that, I mean, it's like a balance, but it's
yeah,
fundamental to have
yeah.
this open-mindedness. And yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Now, Professor C.S. Sinde.
Oh, 1 minute. Thank you, Catalina. You have explained so nicely, and this letter is so sensitive, actually. H.P. Blavatsky has written to A.P. Sinnet the last letter, and if you look into the life of HPB, she was very, very, what we can say, she followed what the rules are. A courageous endurance of personal injustice. Up to the end, she endured. She never complained, never fought for that. If any complaint is there, just she was listening. So courageous endurance of personal injustice in her life. This was the great one, because she discovered that there are perfected beings, that there are masters. Not only she discovered, she met them physically, and she stayed with them in the ashrama. All this she dared to explore. She wanted to know more, and not only whatever you know, let others know, was her behavior. So immediately, with passionate and over enthusiasm, that is what HPV herself has said. We declared it to whole world, and that reacted against many complaints like this. But everything she accepted. That is what the same thing happened with the J. Krishnamurti also. He told, I have been told by many people in Europe, India, America, that what I say is not new. On his face, they told, what I say is not new. Then he replied, there is nothing new under the heavens. See how he replied. But for every man who really discovers, who really attains, to him, everything is new. So if you find nothing in what I say, it is not my fault. It is fault of those who have nothing in themselves. So as every day is fresh and keen, as every spring is new, these are the words of JK I am quoting. So if you would find something new, something original, something clear, you must be different. To discover something new, there must be the desire in your heart to break away from the old. This is what Krishnamurti in this new era, he declared. So there are difficulties. As you said rightly, it is good to know first. Know first that you are not a body but soul. And if you know the soul, dare to live the life of soul at any cost. So, and after that, There are many difficulties that come. Be silent. That is what, these are the 3 steps actually. And we can follow this. I am happy. Catalina, you are studying very nicely, very systematically. And may I suggest, if you, if it would be good to suggest that, why not we can think of this Mahatma letter teaching and compile with the teaching of Buddha Eightfold Path. So whatever letters are there, how it can be concluded in this Eightfold Path, because whatever it is said, it is Buddhic, Mahayana Buddhism. So we can compare our, think of like this. I think that would be good for all of us. And you have
Thank
that energy to do that one.
For
So
the suggestion.
this is
Very-
what I want to suggest
Thank
you
you.
on this
Thank you.
occasion. But you have explained very nicely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I think we can end now. I see Sister Mitalini is there. Is she available for closing prayer?
Yes, yes. Namaste. Om. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurmang amrutangamaya sarve bhavantu sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु न कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति
Okay, it is time to close. So next session, next Friday, letter number 136, next letter. Okay. Bye-bye to each other.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mahapatra ji. Thank you very much.
Very much. Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Sister Catalina.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.